Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Anita Archer. Anita serves as an educational consultant to state departments, county agencies, and school districts on explicit instruction and literacy instruction. She's taught elementary and middle school students and is the recipient of 10 Outstanding Educator Awards. Dr. Archer has served on the faculties at San Diego State University, the University of Washington, and the University of Oregon. She's nationally known for her presentations and publications on instructional procedures and literacy instruction, and has co-authored numerous curriculum materials with Dr. Mary Gleason, including Rewards, Rewards Plus, Rewards Writing, Skills for School Success, and in addition has recently completed a curriculum or a textbook that's with Dr. Charles Hughes that's referred to as Explicit Instruction, Effective and Efficient Teaching. If any of you have this book, you'll notice that the I's have been dotted with a different color and the T's crossed with a different color to denote that to help all learners learn, you have to pay attention to the detail. With that, I turn the time over to Anita Archer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anita.
Good morning. Thank you. So I have had a chance for many years to come up to this beautiful campus. So I celebrated coming back today. And to talk about the area of writing with a district that is already making very, very good decisions. Last week I had a chance to spend 2 days demonstrating lessons. The previous week I spent the whole week doing that in Redwood City, California, in the Bay Area. And before that in Phoenix, Arizona, and the week before that in the inner city of Denver. And what I saw there is what I probably would find if I came to your district, that there were some children that were not totally riveted to my every word. And raise your hand if you've ever had like lack of rivet. And I was teaching totally enlightening strategies and concepts, and there were some students who did not appear to instantly be enlightened. And raise your hand if you've ever had like lack of enlightenment in the elementary school. And our only possibility is to have as much active participation as possible. So I am going to do with you what I would do if I visited your class. When the answers are very short, you're going to say them together. I'll ask a question. I'll put up my hands. This says, think, don't blurt. On Friday, I was working with a group of administrators, and there was in the front row an administrator blurter. And I had to give like the individual signal. And you know what? He did not like get it. And so, well, I had to like explain. So this means think, and when I go like that, we'll say the answer. For example, what day of the week is it, everyone? It is Monday, absolutely. And sometimes you're going to share answers with a partner. Now here we have an even number table. You're number one, partner number two. You're number one, partner number two. You're number one, partner number two. And here we have an odd number. Now, principals should give us even number classes. And when someone's partner is absent, we should just send the partner home. But you know, it's probably not going to happen. So you're number one, partner number two, and you're going to form a triad with you number one, you a two, and you a two. So everybody turn and get a partner, number yourself 1 and 2, and go. So everybody turn and stare at your partner. And raise your hand if you're a 1. And raise your hand if you're a 2. Raise your hand if you're a 1. Raise your hand if you're a 2. Raise your hand if you're a 2. Okay, that was just an alertness check. Okay. And just one more thing before we start. Fall silent. Actually, one day I was in an 8th grade class, and the teacher used that, fall silent, and I've adopted it because it's so much nicer than shut up. All right, so you have been, as a focus, working on writing. And raise your hand if you've ever heard of the Common Core State Standards. because if you don't raise your hand, woo, remedial lunch. And so I'm just going to add a little bit to that. And one of my fears is that the Common Core state standards only talk about outcomes. By the end of the year, the students will be able to do this. By the end of the year, the students will be able to do this. By the end of the year, the students will be able to do this. But it does not talk about the skills that lead to it. And as a result, a number of districts are removing from their curriculum some highly research-validated areas that I hope will never leave your consciousness. And so we're going to do two things. We're going to look at the research on why what you're doing makes a difference, and in terms of foundation skills that underlie what they want in the Common Core state standards, and then what do we know about teaching any genre that we might want students to learn. So you have a handout. So when we look at our morning, we're sort of dividing it into two parts, and one is foundation skills and the research to support how critical they are to competent writing. And then we are going to look at teaching any genre. In the Common Core state standards, they have three genres that they list. Narrative, and they define it as to convey an event. And informational text, which is to inform the reader of information. And number three is in your level called opinion writing, which is to convince the reader of some opinion. So those are the three big ones. But under each of those, they could be divided into different genres. So if I did opinion, I could write an essay. If I did opinion, I could write a letter. If I did information, I could write a report, I could write a paragraph, I could write an informational summary. So there are many genres under those three headings of informational text, narrative text, and opinions. Sort of got to get the, remember we used to call it persuasive, but you got to get the new language down. So now they call it opinion, and when it goes to middle school, it's called argumentation. So it's just different language, same things. But again, here is my concern. Just last week, I'm in a district that said, well, now we don't have to teach spelling. This is like very dangerous because would you have to have the skill of spelling in order to fluently write your ideas down? Yes or no? And I meet too many middle school kids who still believe in invented spelling, who still believe it's a creative act, and don't know how to spell. So as I talked to you this morning, though, I know that you are making really good decisions, and facilitators are ensuring them. Right, I'm giving you the little to-do list here. So we're going to look at these, and I think you may be surprised at the quality of the research to support what you are already doing. So raise your hand if you are a kindergarten teacher or a first grade teacher. And so I presume that you are teaching students manuscript writing, and I probably am going to find some third grade teachers who teach cursive. Raise your hand if you're a third grade teacher teaching cursive. Say yes or no. Yes, okay, good, good, all right. So what do we know about handwriting? Here is a very interesting study that found that when children are way back in kindergarten and first grade, that their ability to form letters that are recognizable to someone else and doing it with ease actually gives them a mindset about writing. And right away, even in kindergarten, children are deciding, I am not a writer because I cannot form this. And that mindset goes way beyond kindergarten into the upper grades. So teaching kids in the early grades handwriting and doing it very systematically and very well is absolutely critical. So kindergarten teachers, raise your hand. See, you are going to predict the mindset that children have. Whoa, that I can either write or I can't write. And we also know that handwriting has to have some automaticity. In fact, looking up the top there, one study found that they could predict the quality of students' essays by the quality of their writing and their fluency in writing. That if they wrote very slowly, then they looked at the state test and the samples there, and they found that the fluency of handwriting was totally predictive of the quality of their writing. So raise your hand if your school has put any energy into reading fluency. Okay? Raise your hand if you worked on reading fluency. Okay? And we know the arguments for reading fluency. That if you're reading, there's two things you have to attend to. You have to attend to the actual decoding, the reading of the words. Simultaneously, you have to consider comprehension. And if you are a very slow reader and a lot of your cognitive energy is going to decoding, it draws it away from comprehension. And the end result is it reduces your comprehension. So we want to get students fluent in reading so that they could put all their cognitive energy on comprehension. Well, that is exactly the same thing about handwriting. That if I am a very slow handwriter and I have to stop and think of a spelling of a word and the formation of a letter, then my cognitive energy is going to the mechanics of writing and not to the ideas I want to put in the composition. So fluency of handwriting also enables the students to switch their attention over to the content. So I find this very interesting. Okay, give me the woo like you're interested to. Oh, ooh, okay, good. And so look at that second bullet. A very large study was done where they actually went in and measured students' handwriting fluency. So they said, you are going to copy this for 5 minutes, and then they counted the words. And they had one of the highest correlations that I've ever seen between the fluency of handwriting and the quality of the children's writing in middle school. And so it is very related, because if I can do the handwriting with ease, my mind is free to focus on the content. And so we know that students are going to benefit from both being taught how to write accurately, but also to write fluently. Now, let me just get rid of all of the questions I always get when I talk briefly about handwriting. One question is, well, don't you think someday handwriting will go away and we'll just use typing? You know, that may be possible, but one important study in kindergarten and first grade showed that it may have usage even if we went totally digital. Because they had a large study, 2 conditions. I'm teaching reading in kindergarten and first grade, and when the students needed to write, they would type. So all of it was typed. They were not taught how to do forms of letters at all. And the other group had exactly the same curriculum, except they were taught how to form the letters and they wrote. And it appears that the second group did significantly better, that in forming the letter, that you are riveting the phoneme-grapheme association together. And so being able to form the letters actually had some cognitive benefits. So will it go away? It may, but we might want to keep it for the purpose of both helping out on encoding and decoding. Second question I'm always asked is things such as, should we be teaching cursive writing? Now, this is an interesting one, because the arguments we've always used for cursive writing in third grade are really not necessarily true. So teachers will always say, well, should we actually teach it? And the arguments have always been, it's faster. And that's actually proven not to be true. What is faster is the one you use. So raise your hand if you're an adult who actually uses manuscript when you write. So it's probably faster than your cursive because it's what you write. The other one that is often given is that it is the adult writing cursive, the adult writing of the workplace. Well, that is not true at all today in technological companies. You go to work for ITT, they will say, or Microsoft, we need to do everything in manuscript because it's more consistent and readable. So 2 of the arguments are kind of like gone, but one argument's left. One study asked teachers, or asked parents, how do you judge your school? And how do you know it's a good school? And this was a very interesting study. Well, They teach multiplication facts in 3rd grade and cursive and give spelling tests. Those were the 3 things that parents were looking for to see if it was like a good school. Did they teach multiplication facts? Did they teach cursive writing? And did they give spelling tests? Which I guess means that if we want people to like us, we should keep them. Well, now I am going to use this very simple example to illustrate the big points about teaching all of writing. And first of all, do you think it would be better to have children, whether they were writing an essay or a paragraph or doing spelling, do you think they would profit more from teaching or discovery? What do you think? Instruction or discovery? Which one? Instruction. With enthusiasm, everyone. Instruction. And your district shows that because you have reading mastery, you have Saxon phonics, you have step up to writing, you have reading streets. All of them have explicit instruction. And that is true, that they're not going to discover it. And that includes handwriting. So I am going to model the kind of instruction here that we will carry through for the whole day. So you're going to be my students, and so you're going to get to write also. Okay, be my students, and looking up here, I am going to make the letter P. And what letter is this, everyone? P. And its sound is P. What sound, everyone? P. Good. The letter P starts at the belt line. And I touch down, and I touch around. It starts at the belt line, and touch down, touch around. So we model it, and I do it. Watch me do this. And then I might engage you in doing it, helping me as I model it. So say it as I write it, everyone. Touch down, touch around. Again, touch down, touch around. So I model it, and then I have you help me model it, and then basically I help you do the behavior. Get a pen or pencil in your hand, everybody, I'll be watching, and you can do this just in the margin. And so everybody, put your pen at the belt line, and do it as we say it, and go. Touch down, touch around, touch down, touch around. One more time. Touch down, touch around. Okay. And continue making the letter P until I say stop, and whisper to yourself as you do it, and go. K, fall silent. I wasn't able to get to the back, but woo, this group's good. So let's just look at that back in the handout, and it'll be a reminder to us of what we need to do for everything that we teach in the area of writing. Teaching a skill or strategy. I have often taught a model of instruction of I do it, we do it, you do it. And looking up here, so we had the first step is a model or a what, everyone? And I do it. With enthusiasm, everyone. I do it. So first I'm going to do it. And I modeled it, touch down, touch around. So I basically show you how to do it and tell you how to do it. And then I guide you in doing it. So I said it as you wrote it, touch down, touch around, touch down, touch around. And then when you were competent, I had you do it on your own. So basically, anything that we teach that's a skill or strategy, we could use the steps of what, everyone? I do it, we do it, you do it. But I need everybody, everyone. I do it, we do it, you do it. But when we look at the area of writing, the most powerful part of writing, no matter what aspect it is the aspect of feedback. Well, the number one highest makes a difference is feedback, is the feedback that we give. And there are sort of two types, there's three types actually of feedback. There's teacher feedback, there is peer feedback, and then there is self-evaluation. And so if I was, as I did up here, I went around and I gave feedback as I was monitoring, and then I would have you give yourself feedback by me modeling what would be a good P, and then you would circle your best ones. But it is a reminder of this paradigm. I'm going to teach it using I do it, we do it, you do it, no matter what we're talking about, and then I am going to give you feedback. Well, here is the thing that I really want to also remind us of, which I have the feeling that I'm just reinforcing what you're doing in the district. So I do it, we do it, you do it, I give you feedback. But is it possible, if I stop there with that one lesson, that the skill of making the letter P could drop out of students' repertoire? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, okay, and I'm quite convinced in my travels around the country that our problem may be practice more than anything else, an adequate amount of practice. That we do this great initial instruction, but it's not followed by either distributed practice or cumulative review. In fact, we have even demonized practice. We have had like statements like, it's just drill and kill. That's just drill and kill. You know, we have not one reported incident of any American child dying from doing it one more time. We don't have one to make another P, dead. We don't even have it internationally, write one more essay, double dead. It's just not happening. In fact, that runs in direct opposition to the research on instruction or the brain research. The research on instruction says that you need to have initial instruction, and then you need to have distributed instruction right after that, and then you have to come back and do cumulative review, or it drops out of students' repertoire. The brain research says there are no deep neural pathways unless we have practice. 1 practice, 2 practice, 3 practice, 4, and maybe even like woo, more. It needs to be judicious. We do not need in 4th grade 500 2-digit division problems to like get it. That is not judicious. But enough practice so the students have automaticity. And so I could, if I was teaching handwriting on subsequent days, I could dictate sounds, they could write it on their slate, hold it up, and so we could have ongoing practice and subsequent cumulative review. So basically, I use this to remind us of what we know about every area I need to teach. I need to provide systematic feedback, and I need to have an adequate amount of practice for retention. Now, let me talk, though, particularly to teachers that are 2nd grade and 3rd grade. Raise your hand if you have any students who write very slowly. Okay? And so the problem then is that they get the belief that they're not a good writer, which interferes with their production, but also they're not like getting it done today. And so a number of studies have looked at, particularly those targeted grades of 2nd and 3rd grade, of working on fluency. So that the students would have a short exercise every day where they would write with what is referred to as repeated writing. Very much like repeated reading, where they read the same passage 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4. Now they have a passage that they get on Monday, and they're going to have like, and teachers have done it, you have to keep it consistent, but anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, and they're going to copy it, count the number of words, graph it. And then the next day they have the same passage, write it, and graph it. So that we could increase the fluency of their handwriting, freeing them to put their thoughts on the content. So consider that. First of all, it needs to be something they can read. So most teachers would take like Reading Streets in 3rd grade, and this is a paragraph from what we did last week, and you can read it so that students could read a little bit and write it. But look at the second line. One school district I went to said, well, you know, this would be an opportunity to maybe teach them sayings. that we want them to know. Okay? They have to be able to read it, that's all. All right, well, handwriting is a foundation. Let us not throw it out. And spelling goes right in that area. Let's look at the research on spelling. First of all, your district is doing spelling within the words with reading mastery, the words within within reading streets. So you have correlated it, and I didn't ask anybody who'd said they weren't teaching spelling. But one of the reasons is in the studies by Louisa Moats in Washington, D.C. study with Barbara Foreman, they found that there was a total reciprocal nature between spelling and reading. That if I dictate words and you write them down, the end result is it strengthens not only your spelling but your writing. And so your spelling and your reading, both encoding and decoding. Raise your hand if you're a first grade teacher. So Carol Jewell did a study on first grade teachers to look at what do the quality added, the value added teachers do that's different from other teachers that made a difference with their students. And one thing was different. They did dictation every single day. I dictate the words, you write it down, I give you feedback. I dictate the word, you write it down on your slate, I give you feedback. And so that was the one major difference, is that every single day in first grade there was dictation. So, not surprising that when students are taught spelling, they have better reading. And if they have to think too hard about spelling, then it takes away their cognitive energy. Just like I'm thinking about how to form the letter, it takes away cognitive energy from the aspects of writing that you care about. Now, I just read this study which showed that if you had misspelled words, that you have a low probability of getting like an interview as an adult. And so all through our life, spelling does make a difference. But here was some interesting research that found that in elementary school that a small amount of time should be dedicated to spelling. It's not an hour, it's not a half hour, but like 15 to 20 minutes was on a consistent basis made a difference. So it's not something that you need to spend a great deal of time on. And the thing that needs to be most focused on are those words that are regular, that have sounds in them that are regular. So one study, a computer-based study, put in 400 words and keys to the pronunciation and found that English is actually very regular. Only 13% of them were irregular words where you could not use English phonemes to figure out the pronunciation or the spelling of the words. So most of the spelling instruction should go to words with patterns, which is exactly what Reading Streets and Reading Mastery does. Good. So that in kindergarten it would be, I say the sound, you write the letter. In kindergarten into first grade, you have the patterns of words of consonant, vowel, consonant, 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 vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, 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 vowel, vowel, consonant, and consonant, vowel, consonant, E. The single syllables. And in the upper grades, then we move to multisyllabic words with patterns, with inflectional endings, with prefixes and suffixes. And we do have some rules that are taught in your programs that should be taught, such as when we have a consonant, vowel, consonant, we want to add an ending that begins with a vowel, we should double the consonant. Exciting. But the idea here is that we need to have words with a pattern so that they're learning those words and then could generalize those words to others. Now let me just tell you, raise your hand, 4th and 5th grade teachers. Biggest error in spelling I see in those grades is the teacher is teaching maybe some vocabulary words as an introduction and preparation for reading a story and reading streets. And they make those words their spelling words. But the problem is those words will have no pattern. And thus you can't generalize from them. You learn to spell those words, but you don't learn how to spell. And so the students need to be taught words that have some form of a pattern so that they can learn the structure of written English. Okay? So Now, where can you get these words? Well, probably the best one is highlighted there, and that would be having kids spell the words that are also a part of the decoding strand of your reading program. And so, which is exactly what happens in Reading Streets and in Reading Mastery, is the words that they're teaching kids to decode become a part of the list of words that they are doing. You could get a spelling program. However, in the recession, you probably don't want to buy another program, but if you did, here is the problem, is that the word lists are quite well chosen in formal spelling books, but many times the activities aren't useful. And let me just talk about the major error in spelling books that we have to be cautious of. One of the big ideas that all of us know, let's say over here, our desire was that students could spell a group of words. And we have all kinds of potential practice. But research is very clear that only practice that is very close to the outcome behavior we desire is going to make a difference. For example, you might have, even in Reading Street sometimes, you have an exercise such as doing a crossword puzzle using the words. But you know, that is an excellent, really retirement skill. But it's so far removed from actually spelling the words that it probably would not make any difference, because the words are right in front of you. You don't have to carry them in memory at all. Maybe you have like a word search game. Again, that is so far away that you could word search all day and it has almost no impact on your spelling because the words are in front of you, you're hunting them down. Maybe you write a sentence to show you understand the spelling word, which is great in vocabulary, but it doesn't have any impact. Maybe you look up the words in the dictionary. You get really good at dictionary, but it has no impact on like spelling. That only something that requires you to like spell makes a difference. And so, for example, one of them that makes a difference is if the teacher does dictation. I say the words, you write it down, I give you feedback on it. Or you could have your students be a tutor and a tutee. And so I say, ones, you are the teacher today, take out your spelling list and you turn to your partner. First word is, write it down. Now look at it. An independent strategy that had research was called copy, cover, write, check. In fact, it's the only independent practice that we could find made a difference. Copy, cover, write, check. And so the students would write down the word. So maybe I am studying the word rain, which in Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, is a sight word. But anyway, you write it down, you cover it up, you write it from memory, you lift your hand and check, you cover it up, you write it from memory, you lift your hand and check, and so forth. I was just in a class where a teacher made a classic error. She told her fifth graders, here's your spelling words, you're going to use copy, cover, write, check, and you have to make a whole line of them. Well, fifth graders are quite clever. And so when I was in that class, right? I mean, I said, you know, I think that they figured out a way to do it and make your guidelines, but maybe you want to tell them a certain number like 5 so that they can't do it. So, but you know, this to me is a really big idea in education, because oftentimes the practice exercises that are provided us are so far removed from the outcome we desire that they make no difference. And this is one of the perfect ones. So a district just said, well, we're going to buy a new program. And I said, well, here's what you should do. I want you to buy a student book, one for the teacher. And the teacher's going to use the list of the words, but the teacher is not going to do all the exercises in it. The teacher is going to dictate the words or have the kids study them with a partner or have them independently study it with copy, cover, write, check. But all of these exercises we're not going to do. And so what kind of practice would we want? Two of them are teacher dictation and student. And so here's what I want you to do. Write in the margins, or some of you have extra paper, you can do it there. We're going to take a moment to watch just a little video in second grade of me just practicing. The kids had a spelling test, and the next day I am dictating some of the words. And I want you to write down anything that you would perceive as a good practice. I'm looking back up here. So your first spelling word, leave your pencils down. I don't want to see anybody write until I tell you to. Oh, good. Your pencils are down. Your pencils are down. Perfect. Everybody's got it down. So our first spelling word is the word open. Well, don't write. The first spelling word is the word open. What word, everyone? Open. So we could don't write. We could open the door. Fist in the air. Put your fist in the air. We're going to say each part in the word. Each syllable. First part is O. Next part is pen. Say those parts as you write the word. Write open on your paper. Compare yours with your partner. Okay, check open. If it looks just like mine, great. If not, cross it out and rewrite the word. Okay, and don't erase it. Just cross it out. Let's say I had a letter I here. I'm going to cross it out and I will rewrite the word. So if you missed it, cross it out and rewrite it. Okay, and pencils down. Our next word is student. Don't write yet. Student. What word, everyone? Student. You are a student. Fist in the air. And first part, everyone, is stew. Next, oh, got to do it again. Everybody make a fist. I need everybody. First part is stew. Next part is dent. Write the word. Excellent job correcting that. Perfect. Okay, look at your word. Be sure it looks like the word student. And this is the word student. If you missed any letter, cross it out and rewrite it. Boy, I love the way people are rewriting their words. Okay, when you're done, put your pencil down. We're set. Okay, the next word is visit. What word, everyone? Visit. Fist in the air. And say each part, everyone. Viz it. One more time. Viz it. And say those parts as you write it. Go. Okay, look at the word. Be sure it looks like visit. Okay, now, looking at it, if you missed any letter, like a number of you had, and wrong letter here, cross it out and rewrite it. Don't erase, but cross it out and rewrite it.
Why can't we erase?
Because I need to see what you wrote the first time. Okay, so everybody pencils down. So here is our sentence we're going to write. Everybody looking here, don't write till I tell you to. So I went right up to someone, they said, wow, spelling instruction, that seems pretty straightforward. You know, it's not the 15 minutes where you need to put all of your creativity. It is a straightforward subject and best taught pretty straightforward. And if someone asked me what was the most useful thing there, I would say it was the use of an instructional routine, which I actually wrote out for you in slide number 16. And actually, every bit of that comes from research that has been done in the area of spelling practice. And so I dictated the word and a sentence, and I had to get their pencils down, because how many times have you dictated a word and then they're not listening and they continue to write, and then they raise their hand and say, can you repeat number 2? So pencils down so we can do it. Oh, 18, forgive me, thank you, dear. 18, right there, yes. I said the word and a sentence, and they repeated it. Now, number 3 is critical, because actually we're using the practice as a way of teaching kids a strategy that if you're going to spell an unknown word, slow it down. If it's a short word, listen to the sounds. If it's a long word, listen to the parts, and then write those down. Now, in the younger grades, like this was 2nd grade, we usually say, put your hand up, and if it was short, everybody do this with me. Our word is man. What word, everyone? Man. Fist in the air, doing it, doing it, doing it, and put up 1 finger for each sound. First sound, next sound, next sound, And if it was a long word, the word is convention. Everybody put your hand in the air and put up 1 finger for each part. Convention. Now say those parts as you write it. However, I do a slight alteration in 4th and 5th grade, because kids don't always want to do this in private. So we do tap and say. So everybody put your hand on the table, and the word is convention. Tap and say the parts. Convention. Now, and you move your fingers like this. Convention. Do it again. Convention. Well, the reason we did that is, could someone even going to middle school who doesn't know how to say the word, spell the word, do that at their desk and not be embarrassed? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, so we always teach things so that they would generalize. So that's why we changed it in the 4th and 5th grade. So the students write the word. But this may not seem totally critical to you, but the feedback is critical. Did I spell the word? Did I say you spell student S-T-U-D-E-N-T? Did I do that, yes or no? No, the research would say all feedback in spelling must be visual. All feedback in spelling has to be visual. So I wrote it down and had them compare it visually. And that's because spelling requires 2 processes. One is the auditory process. I listen to the sounds, write the letters. I listen to the parts, write the parts. But it also requires visual. Because if you spell rain, R-A-N-E, you need to like look at it and say, no, I better fix it up. So if you always rely just on the sounds, we end up with phonetic spellers. You have to teach them to rely on both. So you have them do these feedback on visual. This is even true when you're going around the room and I come to you and you say, how do you spell opposite? I will not go, well, it's spelled O-P-P-O-S-I-T-E. I mean, how many times has someone done that to you and finally you say, like, write it down? True? Because you need to, like, see it. And so even as you go around the room and someone asks you for the spelling of the word, write it down on pencil on their paper, then they can erase it. But all feedback in spelling is not auditory, it is visual. Okay? And then I had these students during the dictation, if they made an error, they had to cross it out and rewrite the word. They couldn't just fix up the wrong letter. And I want you to tell your partner, why do you think that correction, where they have to cross it out and rewrite it, was found to make a significant difference in the study of spelling dictation? So why is there a benefit? So, you know, this kind of practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is exactly what the spelling doctor would request. Pretty simple. And if you have older kids and you want to set it up so they did it with their partner, that was equally successful. In the PALS program, you are the tutor today. You take out your list and you're doing 1 through 5 and you say the word, she writes the word, you show it, she crosses it out, rewrites it. Next day, you are the tutor, 6 through 10, you say the word and you write it, and so forth. So you could do it either way. So let us now look at the research on sentences. And I want to really put some energy into this because you can teach kids how to write a paragraph, you can teach them how to write an essay, you can teach them how to write a story, but if they do not have good, confident sentences, then it's all for naught. I just finished a big study in New York City where we taught these students in 5th and 6th and 7th grade how to write a persuasive essay. But when we looked at it, the quality was dictated not by the fact that they had an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, but the fact that they had sentences that were of high quality. So I want to share with you the 2 research-validated practices to increase sentences. And it's not diagramming. I mean, if you're a diagram lover, you know, do it at home in between crossword puzzles and word searches. But the 2 that make a difference is, one is sentence expansion, where the students have a stem and you say, add a phrase that tells why, add a phrase that tells when, add a phrase that tells where, add a phrase that tells how. And that sentence expansion is an activity that we can start very systematically in 1st grade. Now, if you have Step Up to Writing in the primary grades, they have a very good section on sentence expansion that tells you exactly how to introduce it and the sentence stem, and then how the students could add it. But it's something we could even do in the intermediate grades. But I want to take a moment to show the teachers how to infuse sentence expansion into something that is very often done in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And raise your hand if you've ever asked children to write a sentence to illustrate their knowledge of a vocabulary word in their reading book. Raise your hand if you've ever had them write a sentence. It's the most common practice for vocabulary given in the United States. But here is the problem. The students have the word compulsory, the sentence, it was compulsory. They have the word target, it was on target. They have a word like astonishing, it was astonishing. And so the problem is you don't get very good idea if they actually understand the word. The very best one that I ever had was a 5th grader, and I said, here's your words, 1 through 10, and you're going to write a sentence to show me that you know the meaning of the word. So I walk over to Jason, and he has written down, number 1 is compulsory, number 2 is astonishing, number 3 is, and I just had to say, my goodness, you are so clever, a future entrepreneur. And this will be the last time you get to do that. And he said, I'm surprised I get to do it today. So one of the studies that use this within their reading program for vocabulary was the Success for All program. And so I am going to take a moment to teach it to teachers so that they could use it as a way to infuse these 2 activities. I'm writing a sentence for vocabulary, but I'm also practicing sentence expansion. Everyone looking up here and be my students. So we're going to make you 5th graders. So 5th graders, raise your hand if you have ever been asked to write a sentence to show you understood a vocabulary word. Oh, good job, all of you have. Well, in 5th grade this year, we're also going to do that, but we are going to do it with sentences that we are going to call meaningful sentences. And so let us learn how to do that today. So one of our words was meager. And let's say you wrote this sentence, it was meager. And so you turned this in. Well, my test on is it a meaningful sentence for vocabulary is, are there almost no words I could substitute for meager? So let me see. It was lovely. It was beautiful. It was glorious. It was wonderful. It was terrific. It was fun. It was terrible. It was dreary. It was rainy. It was sunny. Are there many words I could substitute for meager? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, okay? And so, here's what you are going to do. You are going to have to make this a meaningful sentence by answering at least 3 of these questions. And the questions are what, and why, and how, and when, and where. And so we're going to answer at least 3 of those within our sentence. I want to be certain I didn't leave something out. 3 and 3. And I knew I did. And who? And who? And who? So at least 3 of these. So we're going to do this first one together. Here I have the word it, and it was meager. But it doesn't tell us what it was. So talk over your partner, what could be meager, and go. Well, actually, as I whipped around, your answers fell into 2 groups. One idea was, well, something to do with money. Our salary is meager, our retirement is meager, our savings are meager, my cash is meager. It was a very sad story. And then on the other hand, you talked about food. Lunch was meager, dinner was meager, snacks were meager. And so basically this is a bimodal group. It's either money or food, but it's meager. So I'm just going to take one idea, and it was our dinner was meager. And so we have answered this question of what, but we could also say when our dinner was meager. So please tell your partner when dinner was meager and go. So, well, the first person I went to said, on Thanksgiving, our dinner was meager. Oh my God, it's really a tragic story at that table. But then the next door neighbor said simply, last night, our dinner was meager. And so we've answered when, but we could also add, why was our dinner meager last night? And so I want to have you tell your partner why dinner was meager last night and go. So I heard things like, last night our dinner was meager because the mother had failed to go shopping and no stores were open. Another idea was our dinner last night was meager because husband was cooking. I don't know that, okay? But the answer that I'm going to use is this, is last night our dinner was meager because we have little money. And now, why did I pick that one? Well, if we had little money, that gives us an idea of what meager is. And so that will give the reader some idea that we understood the meaning. So then I reread it and edit it. Last night our dinner was meager because we had little money. I could even add for food. Hey, now I can't substitute a lot of words for meager. Now in the study that was done with Success for All, when the students, and they did this with 3rd and 4th and 5th graders with their vocabulary words, and they had to expand their sentences, that it had a huge impact on the quality of their sentences in writing, because you're basically teaching them how to expand their sentences and make them more sophisticated. But having it as a regular practice activity that we're using for another subject makes it so that it's not taking more time out of writing because we fit it right into vocabulary. Well, the other one that has actually the very finest research in terms of sentence quality sentence combining. If you look at the research on what could we do to significantly increase the quality of sentences, it is summed up in this activity of sentence combining, where the students have a number of sentences that they put together. When we look at all of the studies that have looked at this, it has made a difference in the primary grades, the intermediate grades, middle school, high school, and university. In English 101, they found if they had sentence combining activities that you had to do every day, it significantly improved your writing. And so, for example, this is the structure, because we wrote a program for older students, 5th, 6th, 7th graders, on sentence refinement that included sentence combining. So we start with Linda grabbed a seat, and we're going to add Bobby grabbed a seat. So now the sentence would be Linda and Bobby grabbed seats. We presume they're not sitting on top of each other. The seats were adjoining. Linda and Bobby grabbed adjoining seats. The seats were on the bus. Linda and Bobby grabbed adjoining seats on the bus. Now, would that make me think about the structure of English sentences, yes or no? Yes, but it's also fun for the kids. It's kind of a game, a mission to figure this out, so they really, really enjoy it. But when compared, the studies on sentence combining always used grammar instruction as the control group. And the students who did sentence combining made significantly more gains in the quality of their writing than the students who got grammar instruction. So this would be something that the district really could look into, just a material for a teacher that would give these exercises that they could use as a quick warm-up at the beginning of their language arts period. And so just consider this, because it has such great research on making a difference in terms of the students' gains. So would you go over to slide 26? So you have been looking at the Common Core state standards, and you know that they only talk about outcomes. They downplay the foundations, but I'm so just celebrate the fact that your district, in their deep wisdom and their review of research, still highly believe in teaching handwriting, spelling, and sentence sense, woo-woo. But you also want to teach the genres that are mentioned, and the big three are, once again, are narrative, convey an event, informational, to inform, and opinion, to convince. And so I could have demonstrated this with any, but I chose the one that has extraordinarily good research, both for for reading comprehension as well as for writing. To be able to write a what, everyone? A summary. To be able to write what, everyone? A summary, okay? Now, we know what a summary is. It is a condensed version of what you've read, and it conveys the main points, and it gives the reader a broad view of that material. And so right now we are doing a study with children 5th through 7th grade on writing summaries. Even before we look at this, one of the things that is helpful is often to anticipate what kind of errors the students might make, because we can then use that as we plan a rubric and also plan our instruction. What are the kind of errors that they might make, so that I can infuse that in the rubric and infuse it in my modeling. And this group all said, I think one of their problems are that they won't focus on the most critical details, but will focus on tiny, irrelevant details that no one needs to remember. That was the major problem we had in our study, is they didn't pick out the critical details. Particularly if they were writing a narrative summary. This was when we just said, write a summary of this passage. This is what the kids did. Well, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And then we would say time up, and they would write the end. And so they weren't exactly conveying the critical elements. And second, one person said, well, I think that one of the problems is that their summaries aren't short. We had some children who wrote summaries that were longer than the original article, and so it was not short. And the third big error was that they didn't write it in their own words. Many of the kids believed that a summary meant that some of it was in your own words. Rest of it you copied. And so we had to work on, no, it needs to be in your own words. So we thought about the errors. Now, when you look at the attributes of a summary, it is short, or another word for it is what, everyone? Concise, and it's straightforward. It doesn't include your own opinion, rather it expresses what the author said, which it gives the major points, reflects what the author said, and is written in your own words. We teach summary writing for reading comprehension, and we also teach it as informational writing. But many of you, in terms of comprehension, said, well, if they can write a summary, then they've really had to hone in on the most important information. But also, as they are writing it, they're rehearsing it. And as you said, that would increase retention. Anytime we rehearse it, it increases retention. And it is a behavior that is the highest order of comprehension. So, but all writing has two big steps, no matter what genre you're teaching. And that is, we share with students what the genre is, and then we work with them in terms of how we write it. And so, no matter what, if I want to teach you how to write a summary of a story, I'm going to start by showing you what it is, showing you an example, pointing out the critical attributes, introducing a rubric, that it always starts with what, and then we go into how to formulate it. The what is really important. Remember back in high school when the high school teacher would say, you know, write a persuasive essay on this issue, what I call assign and bless you. And you then try to figure out, what is that? Please write up this science experiment. Woo, assign and bless. It would have been really helpful to like see one first, so that you knew where you were like going. So any genre that we teach, we would always start with the what. I recently was teaching this, and I was teaching it in 5th grade, and the students had read an article, and it happened to be a persuasive article that we were going to summarize, and it was an article on Just Say No to School Uniforms by Teresa J. Jenkins. And so I'll just read you a little bit so you get the gist. People like to look nice. It's that simple. Sure, some people may spend more time on their appearance than others, but everyone puts at least a little thought into what they wear. It's important for kids to learn how to select their own outfits so they'll be able to participate comfortably in society as an adult. Requiring school uniform takes away that opportunity. Uniforms blur an individual's sense of self, makes kids self-conscious when the uniforms don't fit correctly and cost the same, if not more, than normal clothes. So that's the introduction, and then she goes on to talk more about why it's important to you, why it is part of your uniqueness, why it is costly the same as it. So those 3 arguments. So the kids had read this, and I want to teach them how to write a summary. But I'm going to start by showing them a summary. And so what I did is I looked at it and I asked myself, what are the critical attributes? Eh? Now, you are at least in the upper grades, I know that you're using the 6 traits. Raise your hand if you're familiar at all with the 6 traits. Okay? And so that the students would have ideas, and they would have organization, and they would have word choice, and they would have sentence fluency. This is just a reminder in case you've forgotten the 6 traits. And so I could use some of those. And then it is represented in a rather simple rubric. Now, I'm really emphasizing simple because sometimes I'll go to a school and say, everybody bring every rubric you have to the meeting. And sometimes as a confident adult with a doctorate in literacy, I cannot figure out what the rubric means. Now, if I can't figure it out, is it possible that they can't? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, so complexity is not necessarily useful. So, for example, this is the rubric that we utilize for writing a summary, which you might have to even simplify for younger grades. You would state the, what, everyone? The topic. Okay, everybody, now looking up there, you would state the topic, and you would state the main idea. Or if it was persuasive, as this article was, you would state the, what, everyone? The opinion. And then you would have the major points within your summary, and it would also, number 4, the information would be, what, everyone? Accurate. And you would write it in your own words, and it would be fairly concise. And since I was doing this with 5th graders, one way to make it shorter is to combine ideas into one sentence, and it should be, looking at number 8, it should be something that is easy to understand. This is a fairly easy little rubric to follow. And we would introduce it. Then we have one for conventions, which you could attach to anything. Is the handwriting legible? Are the majority of words spelled correctly, particularly the words that are in like the article you're doing? One of the things we have found in my work in New York City is I'll be looking at someone's writing, and this happened last week. I was in New York City. The student is answering the question, what are the 3 branches of the federal government, and has just misspelled federal government and branches. Whoa, look, copy. And so that is, those are no excuse words if they're like right in front of you. Look and copy. So, and they would use capitalization and punctuation. So we have a rubric that is covering the most critical attributes. And let's say that I was teaching your 5th graders. Raise your hand, 5th grade teachers. Could I just take this rubric on a big piece of paper and hand it to you and say, here, use this as you write? Would that be adequate for your 5th graders? You want to give them some explanation? Woo, good job. And maybe even an example, right? Okay, so that is exactly what we would do. We are going to do this together to show the kind of instruction that would be useful. So everybody looking up here, so we are going to, throughout this year, be writing a summary. In fact, we're just going to initially work on just a paragraph summary that includes the most important information from the article that we read, from the section of the Science or Social Studies book that we read. Now, we have just finished reading an article that was written by Teresa Jenkins on Just Say No to School Uniforms. And so we're going to look at a rubric and a pretty good summary. So everybody looking up here, I'm going to read. When I stop, say the next word. So be on your reading toettes. In this, Teresa expresses her that schools should not require students to wear. She believes that requiring could have many negative, including robbing children of their, requiring them to wear that is not matched to their body, and increasing the budget for to cover the cost of regular clothing and, okay, so we are going to check this out. So looking back at that rubric and read the first question after topic and go, everyone. Is the topic of the original article stated? Okay? And so, do we know that this is about wearing uniforms? Yes or no, everyone? Yes. So on the rubric, please circle yes under the first column. Okay, and going to number 2. And reading it with me, and keep your voice with mine, and go. Is the main idea of the article or author's position clearly stated? Okay, now let's look back here. Did she believe that children should all wear uniforms, yes or no? And we're going to look for a sentence that really shares her opinion. So listen again to the first sentence. In this article, Teresa Jenkins expresses her contention that schools should not require students to wear uniforms. Does she clearly state her opinion, yes or no, everyone? Yes, okay, in this summary we did, so circle yes. And looking at number 4, read the question and go. Does the summary focus on the major points, reasons, and or information from the article? And so we're going to look back and see her points of why kids shouldn't wear uniforms. And I want you to have your pencil ready because you're going to underline these. She believes that requiring uniforms could have many negative outcomes, including robbing children of their individuality. Robbing children of their individuality. Underline that. Requiring them to wear clothing that is not matched to their body type. And increasing wardrobe budget for families to cover the cost of regular clothing and uniforms. Wardrobe budget. And so we can just underline that. And so did she include the major reasons for her opinion, yes or no, everyone? Yes, okay? And so back here, circle yes. Now, number 4 means it's accurate, meaning that the major points are actually from the article. And so were these the points she made in the article? You have to pretend because you didn't read it. Say yes, everyone. Yes, so circle yes. We are going through it very systematically so that you can see it. There's even some research that would suggest that it would be useful for you then to analyze some non-examples, some that aren't perfect. And so, for example, this one is what we did is we figured out what are the errors of children, and we included it. One was that they included other information or other opinions that weren't in the article. For example, the author of this article believes that schools should not require school uniforms for a number of reasons. So the summary writer did give the topic and the opinion. And then, so you could use examples and non-examples. But would it not have been useful, even in your college career, if someone said, write a master's thesis if they would like show you one, so that you had like hope. No matter what we were writing, it is helpful if we first see an example, and it is given with a rubric, and it is coupled with explanation. Well, then we are going to look at how. First of all, before we go here, I've always asked, well, how are you supposed to get these examples? Like if you're teaching children to write an informational paragraph in 2nd grade, how do you get examples? And basically, there are a number of possibilities. One, you could write it yourself. There's some utility in that. You often find out what's difficult by writing it yourself. Number 2, you could look for one and like copy it. In an Old English book, in Step Up to Writing, you'll find examples. In your reading program, you're going to find examples. The only critical thing here is that the examples have to be potentially obtainable by your level of children. So I could teach kids to write a letter in 1st grade and in 5th grade, and I'm not using the same example because the 5th grade example is not obtainable by 1st grade. Well, then after we do that, we teach the writing process. And in the Common Core Standards, they talk about these steps, which we've always used. And the first is what, everyone? Pre-writing, and then writing, and then revising, and then editing, and then publishing. Okay? And so we're going to start with the pre-writing. One of the strategies that in our research we taught children was a strategy called TAP. And so be my students, and this time I'm going to take you up to 4th grade. Looking up here, students, every time we go to write, and we might have an assignment or a prompt, before we go to write, we're going to tap, 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 tap. Everybody get your pencils ready. And I'm watching everyone. And we are going to, before we write, we're going to what, everyone? Tap, 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 tap. One more time, everyone. We're going to tap, 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 tap. And we are going to read that prompt. We're going to read that assignment. And T stands for what, everyone? Topic. So what is the topic we are going to write about? And A is for what, everyone? Audience. Who is going to read this? Because sometimes we're going to have to really consider it, because this year we will be writing our opinion, and people are going to read it, and we have to think, oh, what kind of reasons might they resonate, might really go with them? And P is for what, everyone? Purpose. So in the Common Core State Standards, there are 3 purposes. 1 to inform, informational text. 1 to convey an event, real or imagined. And number 3 is to convince someone. So we'll figure out what is our purpose. Well, here is the problem. Many children's writing, no matter what the genre is, it looks like more a stream of unconsciousness. And then, and then, and then, and then, and then. Or something like the first idea was, the second idea was, the third idea was, the fourth idea was, the fifth idea, the sixth idea, the seventh idea, and the eighth idea, and the ninth idea, and the 10th idea, and I have no more room, the end. That there is not any really good organization. And raise your hand if you have seen that. Okay? And so when we look at all genre instruction, and we look at the research on helping kids organize their ideas, make a plan and organize it before they write. There are these 3 different methods that are used. One of them is to give the students a writing, what everyone, a writing frame. Another is to teach them a strategy. And another is to give them a special graphic organizer that they are going to organize their ideas. Because scaffolding the organization, the planning before you write is particularly critical. Now, in summary writing, the research begins by having these students use a writing frame. And so I included some here. And if you look inside, step up to writing, you're going to find writing frames for narration. And so one day I was reading with students a short story, and I'll use that here. The main character in this story is Wallace. The problem in this story is Wallace had to learn to be a rancher. This is a problem because he's never even been on a ranch. The problem is solved when he watched other ranchers. Now, could I, after we did a read aloud in kindergarten, put this up and do it as a class? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, because already the kids are learning what you include in a summary of narration. You don't include all the events, but you do indicate the main character, the problem, and the solution. And you could make these as complex as you wish. So it could have gone like this. My Summer Vacation, that's the title of the story, took place in Texas. The main character was Wallace, a young boy. In this story, Wallace's problem was that he had to learn how to be a rancher. He first tried to resolve this problem by watching the ranchers. Then he actually practiced what he saw. In the end, the problem was solved when he learned from the ranchers how to be a rancher and was able to stop a stampede. So, would that be the kind of summary for a narration that we might hope for? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, but I have found that when I am teaching like 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, and even 4th and 5th, I am best off in narration, starting with a frame. and doing it for story 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 until they get down the idea, and then we can fade it out. But writing frames work very well in narration. Okay? They also can be used, writing frames can be used for expository or informational text. So here the students had read a thrilling article on canoes. Now, so I wrote them a frame that would get them to think about including the most critical information. So canoes, long narrow boats that are propelled through the water with oars, have changed over time. So a topic sentence for there that tells the main idea. And Native Americans made canoes from dug out logs and birch bark. And to make canoes from birch bark, they had to strip the bark from the trees and then fashion it while the bark was wet into the shape of a tree or of a canoe. To make canoes from logs, they had to dig out the log and then shape the outside of it into the shape of a canoe. Today, log canoes are mostly made by machines and are mostly made. Today, canoes are made by machines and out of metal and are used mostly for recreation. So the challenge here is this one I can use again and again and again and again and again until they've mastered it. This one I got to write for that article. I can't use it again. It's done. Deal. But would it help kids figure out, one, how to write things in their own words? Yes or no? Yes, because this is be different use of language than in the other summary. But also, it would show them how they could combine more than one detail in a sentence and how to focus on the most critical. So we could use writing frames. Another possibility is to use a strategy, and the one that we teach in our research is called what, everyone? List, cross out, connect, and number. We use this for writing information summaries, not for narrative, but for information summaries. We also use it for writing any information paragraph, any information actual or persuasive paragraph or descriptive paragraph. So, be my students, and so let's pretend that you had not learned list, cross out, connect, and number, and we are going to initially do this together. So looking up here, we learned about foundation skills of handwriting, of spelling, as well as of sentence expanding. And we are going to write a summary paragraph that is about what we learned in terms of spelling. So on your paper, I want you to write the topic of spelling. And use your list, look, and copy strategy if you don't know how to spell spelling. And when it comes up, check it. Okay. Now, our notes that we read told us a good deal about spelling instruction. And I want you to look back at that section of your handout and some of the things that it told us about spelling. We might even make this spelling instruction, since we are talking about Okay, and first twos, then ones. After you've checked it out, tell your partner some of the big points that were made about spelling instruction. Talk it over with your partner and go. Now, students, later you're going to be able to make your own list, but this one, as we're just learning, we're going to do it together. And in this part of the room, raise your hand if you can tell me one detail about spelling that was critical. Raising your hands. And yes, feedback is visual. Now, when we write down our notes in our plan, we don't write whole sentences, so we're just going to put feedback, and is visual. You can see it. So the spelling instruction would particularly focus on generalizable patterns. Excellent. So I'm going to make that really short. So practice equals, and I can use that beautiful word mirrored when I write it, practice equals outcomes. Excellent. So focused on words that you will use in writing. Okay, so 15 to 20 minutes a day. Okay, so we have list, cross out, connect. So we ask ourselves, are there any ideas that we could easily craft into one sentence? And so on your own paper, put fingers on 2 ideas that you think we could put together. As I went around, there were many of you who said, because this is talking about selection of words, words with patterns, and words that they would actually use in writing, we could put those pretty easily together in one sentence. So since we're doing this together, later you'll have your own opportunities. Let's, with a little pointy arrow, put those together. When we look at the strategy, list, cross out, connect, and number, we are then going to put these in order. Now, they could go in order in terms of time. What would we do first and second and third and fourth and fifth? Or they could be in order of importance. Most important to least important, or least important to most important would be the major ways we would order it in a summary. And since I'm helping you with this one, let us talk about it in terms of order of time, when you are going to have to pick the words. So let us make that, and watch where I put this. Right here, you're going to make this a number 1. Now, given that we're doing this together, that's our number 1, put your finger on number 2. So that was the most consistent one I found, so let's put a number 2 there. So you pick the words, you dedicate some time to it, and now we have 2 left. Put your finger on the one that you think should be number 3. You said we are going to have practice that matches the outcome, and then that leaves just 1, and we'll give feedback, and the feedback will be visual. Woo-woo, good job. Before we go forward, we did alter this in kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade. The whole strategy is list, cross out, connect, and number, which we used in 3rd grade and above. In 1st grade, we just used list and number. And in 2nd grade, we used list, cross out, and number. Then in 3rd grade, we did list, cross out, connect, and number. So we had to slightly alter it because joining ideas together was not a consistent pattern that we could teach kids in 1st and 2nd grade. So 1st grade and kindergarten, list, number, right. 2nd grade, list, cross out, number, right. And in 3rd grade and above, the one that's in front of you. But this may be very surprising to you. In our study, we anticipated that the biggest challenge kids were going to have was writing a plan. But it was not the biggest problem. The biggest problem was taking the plan and transcribing it into connected discourse. That ended up being a more difficult challenge. So I want to model a little bit of that using our plan here. But I first want you to do this with your partner. I want you to think if students were, and we'll just pretend this was, 3rd or 4th grade, if they were going to now write this into a paragraph, what would be some of the errors that they would likely make? And so my turn first. So one error that I consistently see is that students don't have any margins. Another error that I see is some students will write a sentence and the sentence will go like this, and then they write the next sentence, but they believe that they should go back to the margin line for every sentence. So that's another error I've seen. So with your partner, I want you just to anticipate what are the kind of errors that students might make if they were going to go from this plan into writing a good paragraph. So take a moment and talk it over with your partner and write it down. So here were some of your ideas that the students didn't have margins and didn't indicate it was a paragraph by either indenting or by spacing, that they started every sentence at the margin line. David suggested that they might have one sentence not equaling like a paragraph. And Piper said, as a resource teacher, that some of her students seem never to have met a capital or a period. And Shannon said that one of the biggest errors would be going from the plan to a connected paragraph, that they would have incomplete sentences or just lifting phrases from their plan and not have it be a sentence. But also, there was a challenge that they might have really poor spelling. Here's an interesting thing that came out of some studies by Steve Graham, and that is, actually you may want to have students actually correct the spelling in their plan before they go to write. You know, we used to just say, oh, just have them like dump their ideas. But when they like dump their ideas, what we end up with is a dump. The closer the plan is to where you're going, the higher quality it is. And so you might go back and say, now look at the words you really want to put in your paragraph and check the spelling of them in your plan so that when you go to write, they're going to be spelled correctly. So the reason we did this, the reason we took a moment to think of what the errors are, is actually what you should do before you model anything, because then you're conscious of what you need to infuse in the model. So I want to infuse with this group attention to the margins, attention to a paragraph having a topic sentence and related sentences, and they have to be sentences, not just words, and that I'm going to use the accurate spelling from my plan as I do it. So as I model it, I'd include that. You're going to be my students, and I am going to model the transcription part. And so let's look back at our plan that's also in front of you. And the topic of our summary is what, everyone? Spelling instruction. Now here is the thing we do not do, ever, ever, ever. We never say, this paragraph is about spelling instruction. That is a common error of children, is announcing it very directly. This story is about, this paragraph is about. No, we just never, never, never. So we are going to think of a sentence, my turn first. It has to include spelling instruction, that's the topic. So I might say, there are a number of guidelines that we would want to remember as we did spelling instruction. Okay, that's a possibility. Another possibility would be there are some practices in spelling instruction that could definitely improve our teaching. Oh, that's a good one. Spelling instruction could be improved by these techniques. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. What? A first grade version. This is about spelling. No, see, but no, honey, that's a never, 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 ever, never, never. Okay, a first grade version might be, there are things that we could do to make spelling instruction good. Okay, that would be a good one. Okay, So, first of all, I'm modeling it. I'm not going directly to asking you. I'm giving you some hints, modeling it so you have an idea. And I could even do modeling examples and non-examples. So tell me if this would be a good topic sentence. There are things we can do to improve spelling instruction. Would that be adequate, yes or no? Yes. Would this be adequate? You know, spelling instruction. Yes or no, everyone? No, eh? Would this be adequate? Spelling helps. Yes or no, everyone? No, eh? So you could even do examples or non-examples. Please, first ones then twos, tell your partner, don't write it down, what you think a good topic sentence would be, and go. I heard very similar ones from a number of you, and one of them was this: spelling instruction could be improved through these practices. And I'm going to use that one, my turn, looking up here. And the first part of it is spelling instruction could be improved. Say it, everyone. Spelling instruction could be improved. Don't write it down yet. And you're going to say the words as I write it. And it starts with spelling, but I need to indent. And so dictate as I write, everyone. Spelling instruction. Now, I am very close to the margin line, and I have two options. I can either stuff it in there or move to the next line, a strategy we've learned called stuff or move. Spelling instruction, I'm going to move down. I skip lines so I have space for editing. Spelling instruction could be what, everyone? Improved through, I've got a next line. Spelling instruction could be improved through these, what, everyone? Practices. And to show it is a sentence, it needs to start with a, what, everyone? A capital. And it's a telling sentence, it ends with a period. Okay, so everybody read our sentence and go. Spelling instruction could be improved through these practices. Now, I'm showing you like maximum scaffolding. And of course, I would want to gradually fade this out. But if I was first introducing it, I would heavily scaffold it so everybody would get it. And then I would equally be careful to reduce my amount of help. And I'm going to just do one more detail with you. And number one, we're going to add a detail that is one of these practices. And our word choices would focus on what, everyone? Would focus on what, everyone? Patterns and words that we would actually use. So I have to think of a sentence that would be this detail that would make sense. So think of a sentence that I could add here. Okay, share your sentence with your partner and go. Okay, everybody should be writing it as she dictates it. First, we select words, good. Okay, first we select words with identifiable patterns. Okay, and looking back up here, thank you very much for that sentence, Judy. And we are still writing the same paragraph, but will we end up with a good summary? Yes or no, everyone? Yes, and that is the purpose. And then after we've done this, we can begin to fade out us doing it together and simply say, in our strategy, write down the topic. And what's the first step? It is to make a, what, everyone? A list. With enthusiasm, everyone, a list. And so then I can have students make a list. And then the next step is to, what, everyone? Cross out. So look at your list to see if you have anything that is not really, really important. If so, cross it out. And then the next thing we do is, so we can guide them through it. And then finally we could say, write a summary. But here's what we found in our research on something like summaries, teaching this strategy to fifth graders. We had to prompt it. We had to do we do it. We had to do it with them. So also reminded us that we're going to have some practice here if they're going to get good at it. But they got very good at it. We have looked at, let us go back to our PowerPoint. So if I want to teach you any genre, would I focus on what it is first or how to write it? Which one, everyone? What it is. And that means I'm going to figure out the critical, what, everyone? Critical attributes. And I'm going to formulate that in a, what, everyone? A rubric. Now, one of the things that is critical as you reformulate some of your rubrics to go with the Common Core State Standards is you want to look at the descriptions in the Common Core State Standards. They don't tell you how to break it down to teach it, but they list what they're looking for. And I'm telling you that the two groups that are working on the assessments, you got the PAC group and the Smarter group. You joined the Smarter group. I believe you're not PARC, but you are Smarter. Are you not? Is anybody Smarter? Okay, there are two consortiums that are looking at the assessments. I do think it was smarter to get the Smarter group, but anyway, they are writing those right now, and I know that what they're attending to is what was included as a description of the narrative of the persuasive or opinion and information. So attend to that. And we would want to introduce it, the rubric, with a, what, everyone? An example. And we might even just oppose it next to not just examples, but what, everyone? Non-examples. And then we would go into how. And in the pre-writing, we might teach the students a strategy of what, everyone? TAP. And T was for topic, A is for audience, P is for purpose. And then when we went to scaffold or support their organization, one possibility is to give them a writing, what, everyone? A writing frame. And in kindergarten for narrative, that's perfect. We've read this story, and you could have it up on your screen, and you could fill it in with the kids' help. The kids could be introduced in even the upper grades, first with a frame. And then we could teach a strategy such as, what, everyone? List, cross out, connect, and number. Well, raise your hand if there was something that we talked about this morning that you could use. Because, you know, if not, I have a special table here for the remedial lunch. And we'll just go through it till you have something that you can do. I have to tell you, though, I really want to honor your district because they have made such excellent decisions in terms of the curriculum that you are teaching. And so talk about very good decisions on research-validated programs, research-based programs that you are using. And thus they are optimizing the growth for all of the kids. So this sort of just adds to it. Good curriculum plus good instruction makes children that are masterful. So thank you very much. Thank you, guys.